I only asked her to water the plants and close the windows. I never expected she'd walk into the bedroom, in broad daylight, and not walk in alone. The house sat high on the cliffs above the ocean, glass walls catching every shimmer of the Australian sun. Waves rolled beneath our balcony like clockwork. It was the kind of place people dreamed of. Peaceful, prestigious. Ours. Inside, everything was in order: cream linens, open spaces, carefully placed eucalyptus branches, and silence interrupted only by the rhythmic pulse of tide against rock. My name is Chloe. I'm 42, a marketing executive for an international luxury brand. I travel often: Singapore, London, Tokyo. My husband, Daniel, a freelance architect, works mostly from home. We designed our beach house together. Every corner had our imprint, his sketches on the office wall, my books in the reading nook, our laughter echoing in the master bath on Sunday mornings. We had no children, but we had routines, tight, polished, and deliberate. And then there was her, Helena. She lived 3 houses down, early 50s, no children, recently widowed. Helena was the kind of woman who baked too much banana bread and always offered to help. She walked her terrier along the beach at dawn and kept her hedges obsessively trimmed. I'd trusted her from the start, maybe because she seemed so safe, so maternal. When I traveled, she checked on the house, picked up parcels, watered my plants, let herself in with the key I left under the third pot to the left. Sometimes she dropped off fresh fruit or soup for Daniel, especially if I mentioned he was under the weather. I appreciated her kindness. I called her thoughtful, attentive. I should have said opportunistic. The first sign was almost nothing. A FaceTime call from Bangkok. Daniel stood in the kitchen, shirtless, sleepy-eyed. We chatted about the dog, the lawn, the new art piece we were thinking of buying. But in the background, there was a soft creak, like a step on hardwood. I paused. "Is someone there?" I asked. He turned briefly. "Just Helena. She dropped off those passion fruits you love. Didn't want to wake you by messaging." Harmless, sweet, efficient. Still, I couldn't shake the timing. She'd been there almost every morning that week. Another time, from a hotel in Milan, I checked the home security app. The camera in the hallway had gone offline. Signal interference, the app said. When it came back online 3 hours later, nothing looked out of place. But I noticed the angle was slightly off, tilted, like someone had bumped or deliberately shifted it. I mentioned it to Daniel. He shrugged. Maybe the cleaner hit it with the mop. Logical, but the cleaner hadn't come that day. I brushed it off. Because in marriage, you learn which questions create tension and which ones are best left as rhetorical echoes. Then there was the perfume. I came home early once. A cancelled conference in Tokyo cutting my trip short. I arrived just past noon. Daniel wasn't expecting me. Helena certainly wasn't. No one was home when I entered. But the bedroom air was thick with something unfamiliar. Not my fragrance. Not his cologne. Something floral. Too sweet. Too heavy. Clinging to the sheets. Embedded in the pillows. I stood there a long time, breathing in betrayal without yet calling it that. Daniel arrived 10 minutes later with coffee in hand. Surprised. Kissed me on the cheek. "You're back. Last-minute change." I smiled. "Who was here?" He blinked. "No one." "Why?" "Just smells new." He sniffed the air. "Maybe it's the diffuser. I replaced the oils last week." That's how lies work, I suppose. They wrap themselves in detail. They borrow facts to clothe fictions. I didn't press further. Instead, I unpacked, made tea, sat on the balcony as waves hissed below me, and watched my home like it was no longer mine. Over the following weeks, I noticed other things. Helena brought over lasagna, Daniel's favorite, on nights she never used to stop by. She'd text me while I was overseas to say, "House looks great. Your husband is in good spirits. Too cheerful, too aware." Once, when I returned, I found a folded towel on the guest bed that wasn't ours. A pale blue linen I'd never bought. Daniel claimed he used it after swimming. I nodded, logged it, let it sit. Because here's the thing about trust. When it's deep, we explain away the cracks. We paint over the damage. We recite the good things louder than the questions whispering in the corners. I still wanted to believe my life was whole, that I was just being paranoid, that the woman I trusted with my home wouldn't dare touch what was mine. But doubt doesn't go away. It festers. It hides behind busy schedules and airplane meals. And late at night, it sits with you in hotel rooms thousands of miles from your own bed. Still, I wasn't ready to accuse. Not without certainty. Not without something I couldn't explain away. Not yet. So I kept traveling, kept handing her the key, kept pretending that nothing had changed. Until something finally did, and everything I thought was safe shattered like glass on a stormy balcony. But that's for the next chapter. For now, all you need to know is this: I was a woman who trusted, who loved her home, her husband, and her life, and I had just begun to sense the cracks beneath the surface. I didn't know yet that the woman I'd called my neighbor was about to become the reason I'd never look at love, or trust, the same way again. When the camera motion alert came through, I thought it was a bird on the deck. I didn't expect it to be the moment that would split my world in two. I was in Singapore, preparing for a product launch. The hotel was sleek and sterile. The kind of place where everything smelled like polished marble and expensive air conditioning. I'd just finished a call with the creative team when my phone buzzed. Motion detected, bedroom hallway. It had happened before, usually triggered by the cleaner or even shifting light, but this one came during an hour when no one should have been home. Daniel had told me he was heading to the co-working space by the harbor. Helena, as far as I knew, wasn't scheduled to come by. Curious, I opened the app. The footage was short, 25 seconds, enough to confirm that the front door opened with a key, not a knock, enough to see Helena, not carrying watering cans or packages, but her handbag and a bottle of wine. She didn't pause in the living room. She walked directly down the hallway, toward the bedroom. Then the camera cut. It was like being slapped through a screen. I blinked, reloaded the feed. The hallway camera had been shifted again, pointing slightly upward, capturing only the upper frame of the door before going dark. Signal lost. It didn't come back for another 2 hours. I stared at my phone like it had betrayed me. My chest tightened in a way that made breathing feel unnatural. Still, I clung to the benefit of the doubt. Maybe Daniel had forgotten to mention she'd stopped by. Maybe she was dropping off something personal. Maybe I was being dramatic. But then it happened again. 3 days later, same alert, same time frame, same entry, Helena, entering casually, walking like she owned the place. This time, she wore workout clothes. She carried nothing. She still headed straight for the bedroom. I called Daniel. No answer. I texted him. Hey. Is everything okay at home? Just got a security alert. 5 minutes. 10. 15. Finally. Hey love. All good. Must be Helena checking in. I'm not there. At the cafe working. But the camera said otherwise. Daniel's shoes were at the door. His laptop was still on the living room table. I recognized the mug. Our mug. I didn't respond. Instead, I messaged Helena. Thanks for checking in on the house. Anything urgent today? Her reply was breezy. Oh. Just watering the ferns and airing the place out. I know how much you hate stale air. 2 lies in one sentence. The ferns were artificial, and I had a central ventilation system. I sat on the edge of my hotel bed, staring into space. The soft hum of the city outside my window suddenly louder than my own thoughts. Was this it? Was this how truth arrived? Not as a revelation, but as a slow drip of inconsistencies and gut feelings that finally formed a flood. I started checking the camera logs regularly. Each day brought new alerts. Each alert told the same story. Helena entering alone during mid-afternoon. Staying anywhere between 15 minutes to almost an hour. Sometimes she left wearing different shoes. Once, her blouse was buttoned incorrectly, off by 1. Daniel never mentioned her visits. And when I returned home for a brief weekend stay, the house felt lived in, but not by me. The sheets had been changed, but the linen set was one I hadn't used in months. There was a faint coffee stain on the nightstand. The bathroom cabinet had been rearranged. My hairbrush was wet. I didn't say a word. Instead, I watched. I listened. I smiled. I let them think I was still blind. But I wasn't. I was cataloging everything, every minute of footage, every small betrayal. The worst came a week later. I was in a cab, heading to the Singapore airport. Another alert, same entrance. But this time, there was a sound. The new camera model Daniel had agreed to install picked up audio. And this time, it captured laughter. His laugh, her voice. Indistinct words, but a tone unmistakable, playful, familiar, intimate. It wasn't the laugh of neighbors. It wasn't the voice of a woman helping. It was something else. I felt cold from the inside out. My fingers curled tightly around my phone. I replayed it 4 times, hoping the audio would morph into something less damning. It didn't. The betrayal was no longer abstract. It had a voice. It had a rhythm. And it lived in my house. By the time the plane took off, I was no longer Chloe the wife. I was Chloe the witness, the chronicler, the woman with the evidence, gathering it like glass shards, careful not to bleed. Not yet. I didn't cry. I didn't confront. I just waited, because I wasn't ready to scream. I was ready to expose. Cameras don't lie, but TikTok, it screams the truth into the world. By the time I landed back in Sydney, I had already sent the corrupted security footage to a forensic data specialist. The hallway camera had been tampered with too many times, and though I didn't say it out loud, I suspected it wasn't a coincidence. I wanted clarity, confirmation, proof I couldn't explain away, something I could hold in my hand and say, "Here it is." I wasn't imagining this. I didn't have to wait long. The world gave me the answer faster than the expert ever could. I was sitting in my car outside the grocery store, scrolling through my phone, when the message came from a colleague in Melbourne. Just a link, no explanation. The thumbnail showed my bedroom. I knew the light, the sheets, the curve of the window frame. But more than anything, I knew that mirror. That mirror had been in my family for decades, a French antique passed down from my grandmother. It sat diagonally near the foot of the bed, a favorite for my morning routine. And now, it had captured something I would never unsee. I clicked the link. The video started with music, something trendy, some remix of a pop song slowed down and turned ironic. And then there they were. Helena, Daniel, in my bedroom, on my bed, not kissing, not undressing, but the implication was unmistakable. She leaned into him, hand on his chest, whispering something. He smiled in a way I hadn't seen in years, like a man newly in love, not newly ashamed. The camera, if you could call it that, was shaky. Low quality, but perfectly aimed. It had been placed behind a stack of books on the guest shelf, angled to catch their reflections in the mirror. The caption read, "When your neighbor's not just watering the plant's eyes #homewreckers #sea-heating husband #Australia drama." It had over 4 million views. I couldn't breathe. There is something uniquely violent about public betrayal. Not only had I been deceived, but the world had seen it before I did. They were laughing, commenting, sharing, tagging. "Is this real? OMG, the audacity. I'd burn the house down. She looks like she's done this before." One comment chilled me. "Whoever recorded this is a genius. But why didn't they say anything?" Why? Indeed. Because it wasn't from my security system. The angle was wrong, the quality too low. Someone had placed a phone inside my house. Someone else had witnessed this. And now I had 2 mysteries. Who betrayed me? And who exposed them? I called Daniel. He didn't pick up. I drove straight home, shaking with a cold, vibrating fury that I couldn't contain. My hand trembled on the front gate keypad. Every footstep sounded louder than it should have. The house was silent, still sunlit, still perfect, but I hated it now. I stormed into the bedroom and looked at the mirror, then behind it, then the shelf. My fingers scanned every crevice, searching for the phone, the camera, anything, nothing. They had taken it. Of course they had. But they hadn't deleted the video. Whoever filmed it wanted me to know. Wanted the world to know. And they succeeded. I paced the room like an animal in a cage. My chest heaved, but no tears came, only a sick ache in the gut. I wasn't just angry, I was humiliated, violated, not by the act alone, but by the exposure. My private space, my sacred space, reduced to viral content. My phone rang. The specialist. "We recovered partial footage," he said, "from the hallway cam. It aligns with the timestamps you mentioned. There's one frame, just one, where Helena is visible entering the bedroom alone, and then another where Daniel walks down the hallway a few minutes later." "Show me." He sent it, and there it was. 1 second. 2 people, 2 directions converging into betrayal. The timestamp was identical to the TikTok post. I called Helena, straight to voicemail. I called Daniel again. He picked up. "Hey," he said, hesitant, uncertain. "There's a video," I said, "of you and her in our bedroom. It's everywhere." Silence. "Someone recorded you, posted it. It's viral. 4 million views and counting." More silence. "Do you have anything to say?" He exhaled. "I didn't know about the video. But you knew about her." He didn't answer. "Was it worth it?" I asked. "Everything we built, for this? It wasn't supposed to be anything serious." He said. I laughed, bitter and hollow. "It's serious now. You're trending." He didn't come home that night. Helena never called back. The next morning, I got an anonymous email. No subject, 1 sentence. "Check behind the bathroom vent." I did. There, wedged into the drywall, wrapped in a Ziploc bag, was a cracked phone, dead, hidden. I stared at it like it was a beating heart. Someone had placed it there. And someone had come back for it. But not before uploading the truth. That night, I sat by the ocean and watched the sun melt into the horizon. My world was broken, yes, but not just by their betrayal. By the invasion, by the performance, by the realization that trust is never just lost, it's stolen. Bit by bit, until there's nothing left but silence. I wasn't ready to forgive. But I was finally ready to burn everything down. And rebuild with no keys left under the mat. I didn't send the video to my husband. I sent it to the neighborhood women's group chat. It wasn't revenge, not exactly. It was exposure, truth, a necessary violence. There were 22 of us in the group, mothers, professionals, retirees. We traded everything from bake sale reminders to warnings about beach erosion. That morning, I uploaded the video, said nothing, and muted the thread. By noon, Helena's name was on every tongue in the cul-de-sac. I called a gathering, not at my house, not this time. I reserved the library room at the community center, neutral ground. No wine, no smiles. I walked in alone, carrying a single flash drive. They were already seated when I arrived. Curiosity thick in the air. Some knew, some had only heard fragments. None were prepared. I didn't greet anyone. I plugged in the drive, dimmed the lights, and pressed play. Silence. Helena and Daniel appeared on screen, flickering through the reflection of the antique mirror. That smile, that casual intimacy, the small betrayal magnified into something grotesque by the knowledge that it had taken place steps from my pillow. The video ended. I turned to the room. I trusted her with my home, I said, and she used that access to sleep with my husband. No tears, no rage, just a voice stripped bare of emotion. The way truth often sounds when it no longer asks for permission to exist. I left the flash drive on the table and walked out. No one stopped me. By evening, the fallout had begun. Helena was dismissed from her position at the local preschool. The principal, a longtime member of the women's group, called it a loss of community trust. Her inbox flooded with messages. Some supportive, many not. Daniel's firm issued a formal statement. Effective immediately, Mr. Daniel Prescott will no longer be affiliated with our practice due to a violation of the firm's ethical conduct policy. Ethical conduct. The irony of the phrase made me laugh for the first time in days. He came home that night. Of course he did. Where else could he go? I didn't think you'd actually make it public, he said. There was disbelief in his voice. Not regret, not sorrow, just the stunned realization that I had acted without giving him time to spin it. "I warned you," I said. "I asked you if it was worth it." "And now what?" he asked. "We just burn it all down." I met his gaze. No, you already did that. I'm just refusing to stand in the ashes." He didn't fight. He didn't beg, just lowered his head and walked upstairs to pack. By morning, he was gone. I stood in the kitchen, watching the sun pour across the floorboards. The same light that had once made this house feel golden now revealed all the cracks I had refused to see. Later that week, I walked into the bakery. The woman behind the counter looked up, then lowered her eyes. I didn't blame her. My story was now a community affair. I was the woman whose house had been turned into a viral betrayal. But I held my head high. I had nothing to be ashamed of. Helena, I heard, had moved out 2 days later. Her house sat dark now. The hedges overgrown, the curtains always drawn. Someone said she'd gone to stay with a cousin in Byron Bay. Another whispered that her husband's family, his sister, had cut all ties. No one said it aloud, but everyone knew she wouldn't be coming back. I received messages, some apologetic, some amazed, some quietly admiring. One read, "Thank you for showing us what not to tolerate." Another simply said, "Powerful, chilling, beautifully done." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because this was never about vengeance. It was about breaking the silence, about choosing to speak the truth in a world that begs women to swallow it. To remain polite, to forgive too fast, to look away. But I didn't look away. And for once, neither did they. There is a kind of liberation that comes with letting the world see your scars, especially when they weren't yours to create. I wasn't heartless. I was done hiding, and the sound of my heels echoing on that community center floor would haunt them longer than any scream ever could. I changed the locks, but some things, no matter how tightly sealed, still find their way back in. It's been 5 weeks since the meeting, since the drive, since I stood in that room and let the truth play out in pixels and silence. Since I walked away with nothing but the weight of knowing I'd done what I had to do. The house feels different now. Quieter, emptier, but not in the way I expected. It's not just Daniel's absence. It's the space between the walls that echoes more loudly than before. It's the absence of trust, of simplicity, of the version of me that once believed handing someone a spare key could never be a weapon. I no longer answer unknown calls. I double-check the back door twice before bed. I watch the ocean every morning from the balcony, coffee in hand, and wonder if I'll ever stop trying to read its mood like a code. Daniel reached out once. He texted, said he was staying with a friend in Melbourne, that he had an interview lined up at a firm in the city. "It's a fresh start," he wrote. I didn't respond. A week later, I heard through someone in the group that the firm rescinded the offer. The HR director had seen the video, recognized him. Their policy was clear. We don't hire anyone whose name trends for the wrong reasons. I wanted to feel vindicated. But mostly, I just felt tired. Helena was gone, too. The house sat still for a while. Then came a removal truck. Curtains pulled back. A figure I didn't recognize supervising the movers. I didn't go outside, just watched from the upstairs window. She didn't look up once. Word had it she tried to apply at a preschool in another district. The principal called the one here first. That was the end of that. They were both ghosts now. Not gone, but unreachable, like the kind of memory you stop trusting because it no longer resembles who you are. And I was someone else, too. I shopped at different markets. Avoided the coastal walking trail Helena and I used to take with her dog. I joined a new yoga class, farther inland, where no one asked about my past. I spoke less, listened more. I started writing again, but only in fragments, lines and observations. Not whole stories. I wasn't ready for a beginning. I was still living inside the ending. But endings teach you things beginnings never will. I learned that strength doesn't roar, it whispers. That silence, when wielded carefully, can destroy more powerfully than rage. That healing isn't pretty, it's quiet, messy, full of relapses and replays and long nights staring at a ceiling you once shared with someone else. I miss the woman I used to be, the one who believed in shared sunsets and borrowed trust. But I didn't want her back, because that woman didn't know how dangerous the world could be behind a smile. Sometimes, I ask myself the question I used to think was paranoid: how do you know who is safe? There is no answer, not a clear one, not anymore. But now I ask a better question: how will I protect myself next time? Without locking myself away entirely. That answer changes daily. Some nights, I dream of the mirror. Not the reflection, the frame, the way it held the truth even when I wasn't ready to see it. In the dream, I shatter it, but in the morning, it's still there, intact. Watching, waiting. I haven't removed it. I thought I would, but I haven't. Because some truths need to stay close, even after they've broken you. One evening, I stood on the beach. The wind was sharp, salt biting my skin, the sky smeared in purples and gray. The ocean, endless as ever, stretched before me like a promise and a warning. A woman walking her dog passed by. She smiled. I smiled back. I didn't know her. That felt safe. I took off my shoes and stepped into the surf. Just far enough to feel the pull. Just long enough to remember that the sea never lied to me. It had always told the truth. Crashing, rising, falling, never pretending to be anything but itself. I stood there and thought, the ocean doesn't betray. It only sounds the alarm, if you're willing to listen. The next day, I painted the front door. Not to erase the past, but to mark that it no longer owned me. The locks are new. The woman inside him is, too.